get started, please take your seats.
We will be moving into the candidate endorsement portion of the agenda. It will start with 5-minute speeches from each candidate for chairman, followed by a brief question and answer session. David Cross, please come up and get a microphone. You have 5 minutes. And who is the timekeeper? Sure.
5 minutes. I got a lot to say. Got my notes up here to help keep me on track. I value your time. Thank you all for being here today. Mallory stole a bunch of my material, and she told you that we didn't accomplish very much this year at the Georgia GOP. And I'm the one that gets accused of burning it down. Did you see the applause for her? Our RNC chairman, how's that? It's hugely loud up here. Our RNC chairman, Michael Watley, told us that we have 3 mandates, all right? Rebuild the party, get out the vote, protect the ballot. I'm running for the chairman's position for the same reason that I ran for second vice chair, to protect the ballot and protect our elections. Last month, DNI Director Tulsi Gabbard told us that, what we all know, that the machines are vulnerable. President Trump sent a very clear signal when he signed Executive Order 14248, calling for paper ballots. But we're still using the voting machines in Georgia. We didn't get any election laws passed this year because our legislative agenda was delayed for 22 days until after the session started. There were no organized citizens lobbying, and what happened? John Burns killed the bill. I'm grateful that President Trump won, but we failed to deliver for President Trump this year. I will not fail him as your chairman. All right, let's talk about getting out the vote. We stand at a pivotal moment right now in the future of the Republican Party. We need to have a clone of Trump Force 47 on the ground. We're going to call it Georgia Force 26. It's going to take a lot of people to get the job done. Recruiting them is going to take a strong leader who has grassroots connections. It's going to take a lot of money, too. It's going to take way more than $3 million. To get the money, we need trust and transparency. My business oversees $100 million of clients' money. I'm not asking people to give tiny amounts of money for politics. I'm asking them to give me their life savings, and a lot of people trust me with it. I work in a very competitive industry. Raise your hand if you know somebody who's a financial advisor, all right? It's very competitive. There are virtually unlimited choices for you. But if you want to support the Georgia Republican Party, it's a monopoly. It is just the Georgia Republican Party. The question is not, will I use the Georgia Republican or some other competing entity? The question is, will I give or will I not give? Right now, there are several state committee members and district chairs that don't give money to the Georgia GOP because they don't trust where it's going to. Transparency is the engine that drives donations. I will restore truth, trust, and transparency to the Georgia GOP, and when elected, we will doge the Georgia GOP. How much time have I got? 2 minutes. Okay, we're doing good. All right. Donald Trump ran to become president because he saw the country being mismanaged. All right? And there are people out there that say, David Cross, you should sit down because you haven't washed the dishes long enough. You haven't been involved in climbing up the rungs of the party. If we did the same thing to Donald Trump, he'd be 100 years old before he ran for president. I see problems out there. But President Trump is a businessman who's up there ejecting career politicians. He's pushing out bureaucrats. We've got to stop wasting money at this party, or else we're never going to hear people stop saying, I give to the candidate and not to the party. We have to build an organization that shows gratitude, respect, and transparency so that we can grow exponentially. If we hope to win in 26, we have to have a solid growth plan. look at your handouts that I put out there today. Go to my website, crossforga.com. Let me know how you can get involved in one of those key initiatives. We need young people involved, and it's one of the reasons why I'm going to create a young scholarship program, so we can make it so we can get 100 young people to come to our convention. There are Asian, Hispanic, and Black Republicans out there popping up who want to save our country, and we should have them all at the table. All right, y'all got to stop clapping so much. All right. My dad taught me that the character of a man is revealed by whether or not he keeps his word. Our chairman failed on his promises to eliminate the corporation. He doesn't get competitive quotes on vendors. He gives no bid large contracts to his karaoke partner. He spent our money on personal expenses, and he gave his best friend, the executive director, after he was pushed out, he gave him an outrageous severance of over $20,000. That's our money. I want it back. Are you okay with having your money wasted like that? We have a party that's just treading water right now when we should be building on Trump's momentum. 2026 is coming fast, and the Democrats have Project2030.org. They are committed to taking over our legislature. We have to come out swinging. We need a chairman who will draw in more participation and keep people involved. We need a chairman who unites and doesn't divide, a chairman who inspires trust. The chairman right now wants you to believe that we can't win without him. I know that we can't win without you, every one of you. I am not here to tear things down. I'm here to rebuild. I'm David Cross, and I want to be your chairman.
All right, next, GOP Chairman Josh McKoon.
Good afternoon. It's great to be with you. I would just like to start off my remarks by wishing all the mothers a happy Mother's Day. I think that is the toughest job in the world. And if you aren't with your mother today, I hope you'll call her. The last Mother's Day I celebrated with my mom, we didn't know she had developed pancreatic cancer, and she was gone before the year was out. So I never miss an opportunity to tell people, call your mom. So my name is Josh McKoon. I'm running for chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. I was honored 2 years ago to receive the endorsement of the Georgia Republican Assembly. And we really faced a lot of challenges, but we met them together. One of the things that I did is I appointed more Georgia Republican Assembly members to leadership positions within the Georgia Republican Party than has ever happened before. You'll see GRA members very well represented in convention committees this year. And we want to continue that happening because we have a shared mission of pushing principles forward. One of the things we want to do in the next 2 years is launch a study committee on our presidential delegate selection process to look at what my friend Michael McDonald did in Nevada when the state was trying to potentially keep Donald Trump off the ballot. He said, we're going to call a caucus, and the party is going to control that process. So we need to have that discussion, because when we talk about closed primaries and other things and we're waiting on the legislature, we need to look for ways we can act right now. And so that's something I think we can do for 2028. But at the Georgia Republican Party, we had a very successful 2024 cycle. We raised and spent over $23 million. The vast amount of that money was spent to accomplish two things: to elect Donald Trump President of the United States and to beat back the phony witch hunt of Fani Willis against our presidential electors. And we were successful on both counts. We were successful on both counts because we had a world-class field operation that focused like a laser beam on low propensity voters. That focus led to over 4 million voters turning out early in the presidential election and over 800,000 of those low propensity voters, people that didn't vote in 2020, voted in 2024. That's because of the good work of the Georgia Republican Party and people in this room. We also had a great election integrity program. We passed 3 key election bills in 2024, including a bill that equalized ballot access, meaning there were 3 left-wing presidential candidates on the ballot that took 40,000 votes away from Kamala Harris. That is because of the work of the Georgia Republican Party. And in an election that was won by 115,000 votes, it's like winning a football game by a field goal. You know, you've got to be able to do the work and find the opportunities. And we did that. We did that by working together. And so the question to be answered today is not dealing with people's personal grievances or prior problems. It's about who's best capable of leading the Georgia Republican Party in 2026 to primarily accomplish 2 things: to fire John Ossoff, California's 3rd United States Senator, and to elect a Republican governor. If we elect Keisha Lance Bottoms governor of Georgia, we're going to have serious problems in this state. So we've got to do that, and you've got to have the right leader in this position. You've got to have somebody that's prepared to go out there and raise money. And one thing I will disagree with my opponent about, the Georgia Republican Party is not a monopoly. You heard from the Freedom Caucus today, they raise money. We're at a GRA convention, they raise money. There are a huge constellation of groups fighting for your political dollars. And so you've got to have somebody that understands, has built those relationships so that we can raise the money, because we know the Democrats are going to outspend us. But we've got to have enough money to do what we did in 2024, to build the field program, to build an election integrity program. We hired more lawyers than we ever have before. We recruited and trained more volunteer attorneys than we ever have before. We covered more poll watching shifts than we ever had before. We filed, intervened in, and won more election integrity lawsuits than we ever had before. We did that because we had the resources to make it happen. So you do not fire the head coach that wins the Super Bowl. And November 5th was the Super Bowl for the Georgia Republican Party. And that is why Congressman Mike Collins, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Turning Point Action, Charlie Kirk, so many others, and especially my favorite this week, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has endorsed me to be your leader for 2 more years. So I would be honored by getting the GRA endorsement again so that we can work together, not against each other, because the people outside of this room, if we lose elections, if we lose the 2028 presidential election, they're coming to put people in this room in prison. So we need to be together, and we need to win in 2026. And you can do that with a proven leader who has the confidence of the President of the United States. My name is Josh McKoon. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. So stay up here. We're going to have a Q&A. Okay. David Cross, please come up to the stage, and we'll do. Awesome. All right. So each of you could stand, you could sit. It's up to you how you want to do it. So thank you all for, and I'll put this over here and speak from the podium. I have received a lot of questions from you all, longer than we probably have time to go through, but I am going to do my best to combine questions, reword them so they're both applicable. I request of the candidates, please try to answer in as quickly as you can, hopefully in about 30 seconds, so we can try to get through this nice stack. The way I'll do it is I'm going to ask one to Josh, then David, then Josh. That way you each go first, alternating. All right, so we will now go to the question and answer. So one very, very straightforward question. As chairman, would you support the expulsion of John Burns from the Georgia GOP?
So we, for the first time ever, during my first term as chairman, expelled Jeff Duncan from the Georgia Republican Party. And we did that because there was a clear, unimpeachable record with Jeff Duncan of campaigning against Republicans. He refused to vote for Herschel Walker in 2022 and went on international television to brag about it. He endorsed Joe Biden in 2024. Then he endorsed Kamala Harris in 2024. Then he went on a stage with Kamala Harris in 2024 to campaign for her in Atlanta, Georgia. So if he was to ever show up again, we would say, you're not a Republican. In fact, we've even got the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that kept referring to him as a Republican. We instructed them to stop calling him a Republican, and they've stopped doing it. When it comes to current office holders, including Speaker Burns, we will have a convention in about a month. There will be an opportunity for the convention to weigh in, whether it's John Burns, whether it's Brad Raffensperger. But I want to give a very specific answer to what I think maybe that question is referring to, because I don't want anybody leaving here saying, well, I didn't get a straight answer on this. If we're talking about somebody being able to get ballot access as a Republican and be on our primary ballot, let me be very clear about this. The statute on presidential qualifying gives full control to the state executive committee. We can decide who's going to be a candidate for president. For every other candidate, Georgia law says if they present their paperwork, they pay their qualifying fee, and they sign the loyalty oath, then you have to qualify him. Now with Jeff Duncan, I'm pretty confident that we could have him prosecuted for false swearing if he signed a loyalty oath to the Georgia Republican Party. But when we're talking about a lot of these other people, what we're talking about is a lot of litigation. Some of you have reached out to me to talk about Rule 44 out in Texas and what they're doing out there to try to restrict ballot access. One big difference between Texas and Georgia is there are two West Texas oil billionaires.
Point of information, is there a time limit on these?
If you want me to stop answering the question, I'll be glad to. I was trying to make sure I was being clear.
Please finish the answer, and then we'll keep a consistent time for the next one.
So as a practical matter, it would be very difficult for us to restrict candidates to have ballot access because we would either need to get the law changed or we would have to engage in litigation to have the law overturned.
All right. Thank you. David Cross, same question.
Can you believe this guy? It took 3 minutes. All right. What John Burns did, absolutely wrong. All right. Do I get to decide if he's tossed out? That's up to the delegates at the state convention. But I will tell you this: if John Burns is pushed out, he's going to run as a Democrat. So just be aware that it's not as simple as.
Did the mic die?
There we go.
All right.
Good enough.
All right. Next question, and I'm rewording. I do need to reword some questions to make them generally applicable. Yes. Yes. Do you keep a 1 minute timer and hold up the cards for 1 minute? So the question is, do you believe that a non-disclosure agreement should include a non-disparagement clause to get access to the delegate list for the party? If so, or if not, why or why not? Go ahead.
No, I do not think there should be a non-disparagement clause on there because it stops free speech. And number two, it's $25,000 per infraction, and I don't know who determines what the infraction is. And then whoever wrote this document had the idiocy to put down that we're going to solve our grievances in Fulton County Court, where we know that that Republicans are not treated fairly. So it's an idiotic document.
Thank you, Josh.
So my opponent signed that 9-page NDA, but he amended it in several different ways. Did not bring attention to the fact that it had been amended.
Tell them how.
I believe it's my time. Right now.
Please, one at a time.
So,
Full truth.
He amended it in several material ways. As a lawyer, if I did that, I would receive a bar complaint. But let me say this: the NDA it's unfortunate that an NDA is necessary. You ought to just be able to have a handshake and say, you can trust me with this confidential data. I won't abuse it. I won't use it except for the purpose of reaching out to delegates during the campaign.
I'll do that right
And, I'm trying to finish my answer, please. And instead of doing that, we have seen these NDAs in the last 2 years repeatedly violated, used for commercial purposes, used after the election. And it is compromising the data, the personal information that people have given to us to safeguard. So the Georgia Republican Party would be liable for that data getting out. So yes, there is an NDA and it needs to be enforceable.
Answer the question!
All right.
No, next question. Do you support completely abolishing moral evils like abortion with no exceptions and pornography? Starting with Josh.
Well, as a state legislator, you can go check the record for the 8 years I was in the General Assembly. I was ranked the second most conservative legislator during that 30-year period by an independent study you can go out and see on the internet. But I consistently supported no exceptions, Georgia Right to Life standard legislation on abortion. We've obviously made a lot of progress since then, but we've got a long way to go. And we do need to do that. We need to use state power wherever we can to combat moral evil in our society. So yes.
All right, Mr. Cross.
Yes. The end. Yes. All right. And I'm going to go back to the question he told you that I modified the document. I changed 5 years to 0.5 years. I changed 3 years to 0.3 years. I changed Fulton County to Banks County because that's a Republican stronghold. And I changed $25,000 to $25. Okay. That's called offer and compromise. That is trying to make a deal. All right. There was a precedent set with a man many years ago that modified a document, his credit card, and it stood up in court.
All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. So just a quick question, since the email list got brought up, and I just got this question. Somebody just got lucky, and this is probably like please keep it to like 3 sentences. And I'm asking both of you this. And it starts with David. Do you have any idea how Debbie Dooley and Bill Simon have the email list? Do you have any theory on it?
I mean, somebody obviously gave it to them. It wasn't me. I mean, those people hate my guts. So no idea.
Thank you. Do you have any idea, Josh?
No, I do not. And I hope that we make sure that if they in fact have the 2025 delegate list, that there is full enforcement under the agreement, because that is the purpose of the agreement.
Thank you. If elected, what is your plan for the number of state committee and executive committee meetings for the next 2 years?
My plan for the balance of 2025 would be following the state committee meeting that is scheduled for June the 5th. We would have 3 additional state committee meetings between June and December, and then we would have 4 state committee meetings in 2026. And was that the whole question? Just state committee?
Just state and executive committee.
Executive committee meetings, I would expect to have 4 in 2025. So once basically every 2 months after the state convention, and then 6 in 2026 from January till prior to the election, and then probably, I guess, 7 because there'll probably be one at the year end.
All right, thank you. David?
All right, so just like a business, the state committee will meet quarterly, just like shareholders, and the executive committee will meet monthly, just like your executive board at a business.
All right, so next question, starting with David Cross. So do you believe the Georgia Republican Party should be incorporated, and if so, why? And if not, why not?
No, it should not be incorporated. It should be organized under Title 21. There should not be a Title 14 corporate organization out there because it has one shareholder, one CEO. No.
In 2023, prior to the state convention, the state committee voted that whoever got elected chairman should appoint a corporate structure committee, and we did that. The purpose of the corporate structure committee was to determine what, if anything, should be done with the corporation that was formed in 2014. One of the issues related to that is that the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party at the time of the incorporation, who is listed in the incorporation paperwork, is in litigation right now with the Georgia Republican Party. We have concluded every step of that litigation. We are awaiting an order from the judge in Fulton County. Once we have that order, we will then be able to proceed with the corporate structure committee presenting their recommendations and moving forward. But I really want to rely on the wisdom of that committee, which includes members of the Georgia Republican Assembly, once that litigation is concluded. So that is the game plan on how we move forward with the corporate structure issue.
Thank you very much. Is there, so starting with Josh, if elected chairman or as chairman currently, what is the financial control process for who has access to bank account statements, and how and why is it set up that way, and would it be under your next term?
So the Georgia Republican Party rules were last amended in 2020. As far as the financial operations of the Georgia Republican Party, I don't believe that those rules have been amended in quite some time. It is my intention to bring a rule change forward to the state committee at next month's meeting to try to address some of those issues. But currently, the treasurer, the assistant treasurer, the chairman, the executive director are all signers on all the bank accounts the party has. The party does have multiple bank accounts. Our accounting director, Karen Henschel, does the bank reconciliation process. She processes the deposits, receipts. She prepares the at least initial drafts of disclosure forms that go to federal regulators on a monthly basis and to state regulators on a less frequent basis. Those are reviewed and approved by the treasurer, and that is essentially the process that's in place now. But again, I intend on bringing a rule change forward next month to address that and add some additional layers to that process.
All right, thank you.
Same question?
Yes.
All right. The rules of the Georgia GOP say the treasurer shall have the custody and responsibility of the funds of the GRP, shall deposit said funds in bank accounts selected by the state executive committee, all right, which funds may be which may be drawn as prescribed by the state executive committee. That's never happened. There's never been any discussion of money or banks or anything. As your chairman, I will give full access to every financial record to the treasurer, and we will publish on the Georgia GOP website a quarterly statement that shows you exactly where we are.
All right. Next question, and this one I'll actually read verbatim. And by the way, I have so many questions here, I'm not going to be able to get through even probably half of them. So there are a lot. But this one, it is, and I'll just read what this person wrote. It is evident that Kemp is using his leadership PAC money as a slush fund to control the Gold Dome. Our legislators are not representing us, their constituents. Instead, they're doing Kemp's bidding. How can this be addressed? Starting with David.
Wow. So honestly, that needs to be addressed in our Constitution. Our Constitution gives the governor of Georgia more power than any other governor in the state of Georgia. I am terrified that if there is ever a Democrat that becomes governor, they're going to use that power against us. We've got to address this in the legislature and water down the governor's powers just a little bit. We've got to make those changes. If we don't, we're at risk of becoming the whipping boy at some point in the future.
All right, Josh.
So this legislation was proposed several times when Governor Deal was governor. And I fought it every time. I fought it with other GRA-aligned members of the legislature. I fought it even with Democrats who also saw the danger of this sort of unfettered fundraising occurring. And unfortunately, after I left the legislature, this law was passed. The easiest way to address it would be for the legislature to repeal the statute. If we're going to talk about a constitutional change as a practical matter, and this is probably a point of agreement between my opponent and I, I'd love to see the governor's office perhaps not have as much executive authority as it does on our current 1983 Constitution. We don't have the votes. You know, the reason that I got involved with reforming the Georgia Republican Assembly is when I went into the legislature in 2011, Republicans controlled 2/3 of the House and the Senate. We had a small window of opportunity to rewrite the entire Constitution, and we missed it because we had too many former Democrats wearing the Republican jersey that were unwilling to go along with us. Thank you.
All right, question, starting with Josh. And so have you ever criticized or attacked the GRA to a group of people within the Georgia GOP, and what would you like to say or explain about that? Starting with Josh and then going to David.
I'm a lifetime member of the Georgia Republican Assembly. With a handful of other elected officials and activists, I helped restart the GRA over a decade ago. We're obviously, you know, in America, we got two big political parties. So there's going to be some rambunctiousness. There's going to be some disagreement. But I'm not here to criticize the GRA. I can't recall any time that I've done that. I think we've got to spend less time shooting at each other and more time listening to each other.
Okay, I think that question was really more aimed at me. All right, so when I was at the nominating committee meeting last year, I said something disparaging, and I said that the GRA was a cancer on the Georgia Republican Party, but I misspoke, and I should have given a clear statement and said that the Frost family is a cancer on the Georgia Republican Party.
Next, what are your approval processes going to be for expenses if you're elected chairman? Starting with David.
Okay, so I'm not going to carry a company credit card. I'm going to put everything on my personal account, and I will turn in expenses and have them approved by the treasurer or by the executive committee. If there's anything that's over like $300 or something like that, pick some kind of nominal amount. It's going to have to be approved by the executive committee. I can wait to get my money until the following month or 2 months later. It doesn't matter to me. But there needs to be a process in place in order to safeguard our money.
As I said earlier, we are going to offer a rules change at the state committee meeting to put additional safeguards in place and additional oversight in place. I do want to just say, as to that last comment, I don't think it is credible to call yourself someone that can unify the party and then refer to flesh and blood human beings as cancer. Thank you.
If elected chairman, will the Georgia GOP website display the information for who is on boards and committees of the state GOP? You can go first, yeah.
Excuse me, hold on. Can I do a point of order? And I'm sorry to interrupt, Josh. Has a rules change been submitted already? Because aren't we already past the deadline to submit a rules change?
Not to the state committee. A rules change to the state committee has to be submitted more than 12 days in advance.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome. The question was about committees.
Yeah, whether or not you'll display the information to contact like state committee members or other subcommittees on the Georgia GOP website, so people know who's representing it.
We will take that matter to the state committee as we did in this last cycle. The state committee information used to be published on the website. There was an individual that was scammed as a result of their information being publicly available on the website. and they wound up losing a lot of money as a result. State committee members are also afraid, frankly, of bad guys out there, not people in this room, but bad guys out there finding their contact information and perhaps doing something to them. And so when we asked state committee members a year and a half ago, if they were willing to allow us to publish that information, the answer we received was no. Now, we could talk about a rules change that would require some information to be made available publicly, but we are balancing their need for privacy and their concerns about their data being published with, obviously, the desire for people to be able to reach out and talk to their members of the state committee. So we're going to bring that back to them again this year. Thank you.
Okay, so this is really simple. I have asked for my information to be listed on the Georgia GOP website, and it's still not on there. I would go to each one of the committee members and ask them to just simply give us an email address that we can make it so that people can communicate with them. When people go to the website and they see that there's no way to, to communicate with leadership, they feel shut out, and we don't need to have that. We need to have truth, trust, and transparency, and that's one way to do it with open communication.
I mean, and this is just a yes or no question, and I know the answers, maybe other people don't, but have you signed the NDA? Have you gotten the delegate list and signed the NDA?
No, I have not.
Have you gotten the delegate list and signed the NDA?
Yes, I have.
All right. Thank you.
Alex, another point of order, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Just further clarification, state committee versus state convention. Wasn't there a deadline this week for changing the rules at the state convention, and hasn't that already passed?
Yes. To submit rules changes for the state convention, the deadline, I believe, was Thursday at 5 o'clock, like last Thursday. I submitted a number of them. They're actually some of the ones that are part of the resolutions package that you all will be deciding later.
So the rule changes that Josh is talking about, have those been submitted according to the rules of the state convention?
So there are two ways that the rules of the Georgia Republican Party can be amended. They can be amended by the state convention on a 2/3 vote, or they can be amended by the state committee on a 3/4 vote. So there is still a window of time to submit rules for consideration by the state committee at their June 5th meeting. Thank you.
All right. David, did you want to say anything on that? All right, never mind. How many Trump events were, oh no, sorry. All right, do you believe that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen?
Yes. Yes.
There is no question in my mind that fraudulent activities by the Democrats changed the outcome of the 2020 election. There's no question. I mean, you look at them loading voting equipment in vans and driving around, finding people to vote. The absentee ballot issue alone. We got the law change that you have to put a wet signature on a piece of paper to request an absentee ballot now. 374,000 people that allegedly voted absentee in 2020 disappeared from the 2024 election. So of course they cheated. Thank you.
All right, and I'll start with Josh. Have you ever received any complaints against you in your professional capacity that may reflect on your ability to do the job as chairman? And do you have any explanation on those?
No, sir.
David, same question.
I have 5 disclosures on my record over 34 years in the business, all right? 3 were totally thrown out. 1, I paid somebody $15,000 because they weren't satisfied, or sorry, $16,000 because they weren't satisfied with what we did for them. And yes, I was fired from Merrill Lynch. I was top of the heap at that company, and I was fired because I wanted to give my client the information that she wanted, and Merrill Lynch stopped me from sending her accurate information. So I sent it on my own, and I got fired for that. And when I was fired, I was taken into a room, and the senior guy there said, "How did this document get in the mail?" And I said, "I guess my new admin, Andrea, dropped it in here." And he said, "Let her in here with her about it." And I said, "She's a single black 50-year-old female with an 8-year-old son at home. she doesn't need any grief from Merrill Lynch. And I said, besides, the buck stops with me. I told her to put that piece of correspondence in the mail. And he said, that's your story? And I said, that's my story because it's the truth. And I started laughing. And he asked me, why are you laughing? And I said, because 2 weeks ago, I was cutting my grass, and as a lawnmower, I looked up into the clear blue sky and said, Father, my only regret in life is that I've never started my own company. Help me find a way. And he was listening that day.
All right, so just two last questions. I apologize if I haven't gotten to yours. Well, yeah, two last questions. First, do we need to get rid of voting machines counting the vote, and how? And please keep it as short as possible, starting with who spoke last. All right, you go first then.
So yes, we should be counting ballots like civilized countries do. Hand-marked, hand-counted at the precinct, that's it. Get rid of the machines. Banana republics use machines to count their ballots. They happen to use the same machines that we use. So that should tell you everything, on top of the fact that Donald Trump signed the executive order 14248 that said, get rid of them, move to paper ballots.
So yes, I'm for getting rid of the machines. It's one of the reasons I ran for Secretary of State in 2018. And we absolutely should get rid of them today. They were the Diebold machines then, the Dominion machines now. We should get rid of machines. What I want to be clear about, and I don't want you to leave here thinking, Josh said he can wave a magic wand and make this happen, because the election of the Georgia Republican Party chairman is not going to determine whether these machines go away or not. There are two ways the machines go away. An act of the legislature, or, and this is where the GRA could be very helpful, recruiting a candidate for Secretary of State whose sole platform is decertifying the voting machines.
Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you, Josh. Now, a question came from the audience. How does someone find out who is on the state committee? That was like the exact question, and I don't know the answer to it. So you guys.
Well, I mean, we can obviously disclose the identities of the people on the state committee. It's been the issue has been whether or not to disclose contact information for the people on the state committee.
All right. So that list can be provided.
Yes.
All right. So
I said the state committee members, they're the governing body of the organization. Their name and simple contact information should be on there. They can choose if they want to have a telephone number or an email, but they need to be accessible because they are the governing body.
Mr. Chair.
well, yes.
Point of inquiry. Is it not true that the state executive committee could pass a resolution, say, for example, asking the state election board to request a writ of mandamus from the Georgia Supreme Court to eliminate the QR code in our elections and restore lawful elections in Georgia? Question for, to the last question.
Yeah, so the question is to the QR code. There is, and probably everybody in the room is familiar with this, one of the three bills that we got passed in 2024 eliminates QR codes from the ballot in 2026. There's an issue. The Secretary of State's office is trying to say, oh, we need more money to make sure we can get rid of the QR codes. So one of the things we actually have our legal team researching right now is filing a lawsuit against the state of Georgia to ensure compliance with that statute for the 2026 election.
All right, so if we get rid of the touch screens, the QR codes disappear. That's number one. When I become chairman, one of the first calls I'm going to make is going to be to the governor. I'm going to invite him to go quail hunting or shooting. We're going to have an opportunity to talk about this. So I'm going to ask him, if not beg him, to call a special session to get these machines out of Georgia.
Everyone, thank you to both candidates. We're going to move on to the voting now, but I will say that as someone who has traveled the state when I ran for chairman 3 times, it is a lot of work. Even if you don't like one of the candidates, Like, just remember that they've both put a lot of time and sweat and thought, and they've taken a lot of slings and arrows to do this job. So please give them both a round of applause as they leave the stage. All right, so everyone, please, so to make this nice and easy, everyone take your seats. Take your seats. And we will now move forward with the Sergeant at Arms distributing the ballots. Do not try to get more than one ballot. Make sure to display your wristband. Make sure the Sergeant at Arms knows who you are. And the ballots will be distributed right now. The options for voting in this round of voting are David Cross, Josh McKoon, and no endorsement. As I mentioned earlier, no endorsement is an option on all ballots, and it takes a 2/3 vote to endorse. We have one of the elections done, the endorsement votes done anyway. The first round of voting for chairman endorsement, 136 ballots were cast. That is the exact number of credentialed people, so obviously we know why everyone was here. 2/3 of 136 would be 90.6, which means that 91 votes would be needed for endorsement. We had 5 votes for no endorsement, 7 ballots that were spoiled, 53 votes for Josh McKoon, 71 votes for David Cross. No candidate has received endorsement. No person is near the 90.6 needed for endorsement. It would be 91 votes needed for endorsement. No candidate has 2/3.